Hello, today we're going to talk about public speaking. Specifically, we will discuss stylish professional group presentations and stylish professional individual delivery. Let's start with your group. You have to come looking ready. So when you approach the stage or the front of the room, be ready and look ready. If you're not completely ready, if you don't feel ready, you still need to look ready. That means no last minute conversation about who is going to cover what, no last moment reorganization of slides or discussion over content. That should be finished before you get started. So when you come on up, look like you know what you're doing and be ready to go. The stance is also important. You need to look reasonably aesthetically pleasing in the way that you stand as a group. So think about how you're going to do this before you get up there and stand in some sort of visually pleasing order. People have a tendency to get attracted to things like a desk or a computer. Don't have a bunch of people smashed up hovering over a computer or crammed behind a desk. Very neatly and again, as symmetrically as possible, organize each member of the group so that we can see all of you and you're standing in a reasonable order. Introduce your group members. You can do this a few ways. Some people like to do it in their introduction. Some people do it throughout the presentation. But what you're doing here is creating a brand and you need to sell the brand. I want to view you as a happy family. I want to see you as a bunch of people that I'd not only like to do business with, but I'd probably also like to hang out with. You want people thinking this. They seem like the kind of people who really know their stuff. I'll bet they're fun too. They're real go-getters. Let's give them our money. The next part of your group presentation involves making it just that, a group presentation instead of several individual presentations that are poorly threaded together. So, we ask, as your business communication faculty, that you use transitions. Transitions are the glue that holds it all together. It doesn't matter what kinds of transitions you use, as long as you use them. Switch it up. You can use different transitional phrases like rhetorical questions. So you may ask, what is this going to cost? And then whoever is going to discuss the budget moves forward. You may introduce by name, and now this person, insert name there, is going to discuss this topic, insert topic there. You can use the stealthy Jedi mind trick where you have very little to no actual reference of a transition in terms of who's going to cover what, but you have a seamless transition in terms of content and theme in the presentation so that one of you will stand forward while the last one stands back, and we barely notice that transition in between speakers. That's a tricky one. And again, you need to make sure it's well threaded through your content, so play with it. But think about what you think are going to be effective methods for transitions. Know when you're going, who's going before you, who's going after you. And these transitions will make your presentation more fluid. And again, add to your brand and seem more like one presentation rather than a bunch of little ones. Let's talk about the person speaking. When you're in a group giving a presentation, you're on stage the entire time. People are looking at you the entire time, even when someone else is speaking. So even though you're not speaking, you need to maintain interest in the presentation. You have to be present. You need to look at the person who's speaking, nod approvingly, and seem fascinated by the information, even though you probably know it so well, it bores you at this point. The trick here is to look supportive and interested in the material. Limit your slides, please. Make them meaningful, make them beautiful so I want to stare at them, but you don't stare at them. You are going to be making eye contact with the audience and providing us with the real content of the presentation. You shouldn't be reading off of your slides. We shouldn't be reading off of your slides. You should have some information, but mostly pictures or graphics that help explain or illustrate your point, but at no point should they replace you. Let's talk about your own delivery now. We can break it up into two parts. We're going to talk about vocal first, but truth be told, physical delivery is as important, if not more important, than what comes out of your mouth. But in terms of your vocal presentation, we're looking for a few things. The first is volume. Say it loud, say it proud. Project your voice. So audibility is the bare minimum here. We want you to project your voice so you can hear it bounce off the walls of the room. If it feels like you're yelling, it's probably just about right. Also, maintain consistency in your volume. A lot of people have a tendency to begin a sentence and then at the end it just sort of trails off. And they'll start the next one, everything's going well, and then again it just sort of trails off. Make sure your volume's consistent throughout the sentence because important stuff happens at the end of sentences. I want to hear it. The rest of your audience probably does too. Think about your rate. Most likely, we all are going to need to slow down. If it sounds too slow to you, it's probably just about right to us. We also get a little bit of added energy when we step in front of an audience. Some people call it nervous energy, some people call it butterflies, some people just call it a case of the quick talkins. Whatever it may be, you need to pace yourself. This does so many things for the rest of your presentation. Number one, if you pace yourself and slow down, you don't commit yourself to a really fast rate for the rest of your portion. So if you're going really quickly and you commit yourself to this very fast rate, then it sounds awkward. If you have to stop for a moment, take a pause, regain your thoughts or regather your thoughts. So it takes the pressure off there. You can slow it down and not worry about having to keep up with this own pace that you've established. Nice and slow. That way, if I pause, if I take a moment, it's not going to seem that out of place. I'll also reduce my tendency to mumble. I'll reduce my tendency to use filled pauses like or Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about those in a second. And we're more likely to use vocal variety if we slow it down a little bit. Vocal variety refers to the enthusiasm or emotion that you communicate through your pitch, tone, and inflection. Really, I'm looking at how do you feel about this? Do you care about it? Are you interested and engaged? If something's really exciting, I should hear it in your voice. If something's really sad or serious, I should hear that in your voice. But vocal variety refers to all the tools we have with volume, pacing, pause, inflection, tone, rate, all of those things together that make what we call dynamism. Some vocal variety goes a long way. It's more interesting for your audience. It helps you underscore important parts of your presentation, and it's more interesting for everyone all around. So if you have a tendency to keep things relatively monotone in inflection, step out of your comfort level. You don't have to be all over the place, like, look at me, I'm using all sorts of... You don't have to be someone you're not, but just step out of your comfort level a little bit, give us some vocal variety, because again, it makes you seem more interested in what you're doing, and we can't help but be interested in what you're doing if you're interested in it. The opposite is true. If you seem disinterested or bored with your topic, there's not a lot of motivation for us to get on board with it. So think about that. Vocal variety is great unless it starts to affect, I'll say this, unless it starts to negatively affect the meaning of our message. Paralanguage refers to not what you say, but how you say it. It's the difference between nice shirt and nice shirt. Same verbal or spoken message there, same two words, completely different meaning based on paralanguage. Strategize around your paralanguage. Don't do it while you're up in front of your audience. Think about it in low stakes situations like phone calls with friends or chatting to yourself while you're taking a walk down the street. If you monitor your paralanguage, you're likely to avoid common pitfalls related to it. Let me give you an example. Sometimes when people are giving a presentation, they have a tendency to make it sound like everything they're saying is a question. And this starts to sound repetitive, but more importantly, it's going to damage your credibility and make you seem more or less intelligent or committed or well-versed in your topic. So your audience may not say, hey, did you check out the paralanguage on him or her? But they will say, I can't put my finger on it, but they just don't seem like they know what they're doing. Don't apologize in your tone for having information, knowing information, and being a professional. So even if you're nervous, don't let on to that in your voice. Don't ask questions or apologize for the things you know in your voice because your audience will catch on to it. And let's be honest, no one's going to think you're bossy or aggressive for knowing your stuff. So say it like you know it like you say it, and we'll be in good shape. Use professional language. Avoid unnecessary colloquialisms or slang. Really try to tailor your language for a professional audience from this point on. This is where it all begins, ladies and gentlemen. Right here. This video. Professional language. That means we need to limit things like minimizers, just kinda, sorta, I guess, or something pretty much, kind like just, I guess. These are fillers that have absolutely no place in your language, especially in presentation. Further, they damage your credibility and take up room where you really don't have a lot of space for extra stuff that doesn't belong. Your language should be concise, it should be precise and professional. Filled pauses, as we've already discussed, include things like or Some people mix it up a little with like, or you know what I mean. Whatever your filled pause habit, if you have one, now it's time to work on reducing those. Think about it. Say to yourself, I want to be more aware of my filled pauses because I want to limit them. The nice thing about your brain is that it reverse engineers that for you. So if you say to yourself, I really want to stop using or and you think about it, try speaking while you're thinking about it. Again, walking down the street, in the car, on the bus, talking to a friend. You don't need to tell them you're doing it, but be aware of your filled pauses. You'll start to hear yourself use them. Oh my gosh, I just said Oh my gosh, I just said Again, don't do this during your presentation. Do this in a low stakes environment. And the nice part about your brain is that it then, again, reverse engineers this process, and soon you'll start catching yourself before you do it. Then you'll significantly limit your filled pauses. Hint, if you reduce your rate, you'll use fewer filled pauses. By the by, they don't help you. I know we think that filled pauses give us a minute to really think or help connect us to an idea that we're just not grabbing and able to vocalize. Not true. They don't serve a purpose. Gestures do. So often you'll see people scratching their heads if they have a question. You don't want to do that, but do know this. Movement can be a great tool in helping you maintain and retain information, express information, and it's also a great tool for communicating credibility. So your physical delivery is, as I said before, as important, if not more important, than your vocal delivery. If you have a channel discrepancy happening, meaning whatever's happening or coming out of your mouth doesn't match what your body's doing, we're going to rely on what your body's doing in order to try to interpret your attitudes, beliefs, feelings, level of confidence, etc. So fake it till you make it. If you're not totally 100% confident, that's okay. You're not completely feeling great about giving a presentation on a particular day, that's fine too. But you need to look like you are. You do this through making eye contact. Don't be afraid of your audience members. They're there for you, you're there for them. Pepper the room with eye contact. Don't look at the back of the room, the back wall, the ceiling, the floor, that weird nebulous space right in front of you where it looks like there might be a floating invisible something. Often people will do anything to avoid looking at the audience when really that's what they should be doing. No one's going to think you're weird. No one's going to think you're aggressive or hitting on us. We are going to appreciate it because you're including us in your presentation and you're engaging us. Think about your movement. I know we get a lot of nervous energy when we are presenting, so you can leak a little bit of that through your movement, meaning if you like to move around, you might take a step forward, hang out there for a little bit, take another step forward, or maybe even two, but give us a little bit of time in between your movements so you avoid doing things like the rock away. I have people who do a little rocking thing. That kind of happens, like a lean back, and then all of a sudden I look around and I say, I don't know what song they're hearing, but they're the only one dancing to it. So make sure your movement is tailored. I know it can be difficult at first, but think about this. The best way to figure out what your movement comfort level is to present and record it, then watch it. That is going to be the best way to learn a lot of lessons about your presentations. Posture relates to movement in that it's the way you hold your body. Look alive, look happy, look energetic, and again, stand up straight, shoulders back. Look like you know what you're doing and you're feeling good. Hold your head up high and present. No one's going to think you're mean or full of yourself because you're competent. Gestures, oh boy, we could talk about gestures for, I don't even have the time to tell you how long we could talk about them, because what do we do with our hands? This is an age-old question. Some people will argue around the pocket, but to be safe, let's say no pocket. That's right, not even one. Keep your hands out of your pockets. Don't hang your thumbs in your back pockets. Partially, this creates an issue because you can't really gesture when you have your hands in your pockets. It makes you look unsure. And it also makes you lift your shoulders so that you have an I don't know kind of posture happening. You don't want to lift your shoulders or use a lot of palm-up gestures because they communicate a sense of insecurity. Keep your hands at your side if possible. Use them to gesture. Gesturing can be a really effective tool, and the differences and variations of our styles in gesturing can add to our own personal brand or personal style. Try to use deliberate gestures that do something, either go along with or punctuate whatever you're saying. They may actually illustrate a point. The ball was this big. Or they could be metaphorical in nature. If I'm throwing my hands in the air to exclaim that something is very exciting, that adds to what I'm saying. It sort of goes along with it, even though it doesn't technically illustrate something. Tailor those gestures, rein it in. Don't keep them high and across. Everyone says they know they're not supposed to cross their arms, but we do this strange thing where we hold our arms, our hands in across our stomach, our chest area, and we clasp them high. If you're a Simpsons fan, it's like a Mr. Burns type of stance. And this is problematic. I think it stems from some sort of socio-biological inclination to where it's a protective stance. Maybe at one point in our evolution that helped us in that it protected us from being disemboweled. But you can't think of your audience as a threat. Sure, it's uncomfortable sometimes to be up in front of a bunch of people. I don't want to be the focus of attention. I don't want to be judged. Well, Don't worry about that because your audience is probably so concerned about their upcoming presentation that they're not taking the time to judge you or even think about disemboweling you. So keep that body stance open, keep your hands in a neutral position at your side, but don't clasp them. Don't grab the buttons by your stomach. And if you are a jewelry twirler, take it off for that presentation. You want to talk more about gestures? You call me. All right, facial expression. You got to look like you're happy no matter what's happening. Things go wrong, mistakes are made. You may have a personal disappointment because you accidentally said, which again, don't focus on that during your presentation. But whatever the case, your facial expression needs to remain neutral or better yet, happy-ish all the time. I like to think of it as your face should be in a magical land called speech land, where everything is beautiful. You float around on pillows. Everyone has a puppy or a pet bunny. There are monkey butlers and unshaven bunnies running around, serving you dollar bills right before you get on a super duper log ride that has a watery splash landing. I mean, it is the best. It's like every most amazing, euphoric experience you can imagine, smashed into one facial expression. That's what we need to see in your presentation. You make a mistake, don't worry about it. By the by, never point that out, because there's one sure way to make sure we're going to notice a mistake, and that's by pointing it out. If we did notice it, guess what? That's okay. We just want to move on, so you don't call attention to it. Don't do that with your face. Don't roll your eyes at yourself. Don't show disappointment on your face no matter what happens. Weather's great in Speechland. You're just waiting for the log ride. Oh wait, gotta go. Here it is. It's my turn. That's how awesome Speechland is, and that is what your face should express. You are interested, engaged, competent, and excited to be there. Lastly, let's talk immediacy cues. We could consider immediacy cues a mixture of all of your physical communication, in that audience immediacy or your immediacy cues communicate a sense of friendliness, openness, and connection with your audience. That means you don't face your slides and talk to them. You face your audience. You don't look at the back wall. You look at your audience members. You may smile. You may take a step closer to that audience. Make sure your body is oriented toward your audience, but show immediacy through your nonverbal communication. This will again make you appear more approachable, likable, and happy side effect of that is credible and persuasive. So today we've talked a little bit about stylish professional presentation in groups and as individuals. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them if I have an answer for them. My name's Marisa Michaels. Your name is World's Best Public Speaker starting now. So pick a couple of these things to work on. 3, 4, you can't do everything at once. Pick a few things to work on each time you run through a presentation. But do not think about this stuff as you're presenting. You want to stay in the moment, stay out of your head during your presentation, and save all that fun stuff for a rehearsal. That's what it's for. Again, if you have an opportunity to record yourself, do it and watch it. Then watch it again. I think it'll be the most effective tool any of us will have in improving our presentation. Thank you. Have a great day.